Hello, everyone, and welcome to a very random time to be doing a podcast. There we go. Um, hello. It's been a while. I've been doing Let's Plays for a while now. Not too awful long, really, but I've had school get in the way, which is why you haven't seen an episode in anything for a while, other than just the recent uh Let's Play of Black Desert. Now, I'm personally just kind of stressed out from school and I'm in the middle of spring break. So, I finally have a chance to take the opportunity to do a simple podcast because, lo and behold, I am actually at the house by myself. Not even kidding. We're in the middle of moving again, and I just remembered I had a chore I had to do real quick as I'm talking through my wireless headset. Um, but hopefully, oh, it's so cold outside. So cold. Oh, so cold. Where is his food bowl? You know what? Screw it. You're just gonna get food on the floor. Whatever. We're doing it that way. Anyway, so back to what I was originally trying to talk about because, uh, reasons. Basically, I'm kind of in a really stressful situation. And I'm not here to vent names and be all like, well, this person did this and that person did that and blah 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 and my life sucks. I'm never never. I'm never uh trying to do that. That's never my goal in the end. For me, it's a matter of trying to reach an understanding of just how the world works. So, it's a matter of understanding why certain situations occur, why and how. Um, we're moving again though, and we moved once already to this house that I'm currently in right now. The only reason I'm even here still is because the Wi-Fi hasn't been moved. The internet hasn't been moved at all. So I get to stay here and be by myself with the fat cat, the fat lard of a cat, and I get to stay here and kind of just be at the house by myself. Now, mind you, they'll come in every day to kind of like make sure they got everything, and we're gonna have a big garage sale and everything. But it's quite a time right now because I have so much going on at once that I literally feel extremely overwhelmed to the degree that I'm not sure if I'm even doing everything correct. And that's a weird thing to say. Like some people will, I mean, I can understand why people would say that. I mean, I just said it. But I don't even know if I'm. Not that I'm not living correctly, because, I mean, I don't think anybody ever lives correctly. That's such a weird thing to say. But I feel like. I guess I just kind of feel like we're just living at that point, you know? We're not living correctly. I don't think anyone can live correctly, because we can't even define correctly in some sort of agreement. But I feel like I'm trying really hard to just live. And it's not any kind of like call for help or anything like that. I have my friends who have been helping me and they've stuck by me and they've helped me get through some things. But I'm kind of in that position where I'm trying to make sense of it and make sense of what I've been experiencing. And it's not like I've experienced anything horrific, just that I always question whether I am valid of my emotions. And a lot of people, especially on freaking Tumblr, and that's not a bad thing, it's just that seems to be where it navigates to, will tell you, you know, you have the right to feel how you feel. And in a way, I agree with that. In fact, I agree with that wholeheartedly. Except, when does it become valid to feel the way you feel? If, and I mean, I'm saying this as an example, what if you were like severely spoiled in your life and you were given everything you want and then you cry and whine because you didn't get what you want? Are you still validated to feel that way? You know? Not to say that I've been spoiled. I lived middle class for most of my life. Now I'm living practically in poverty. The starving student. Starving artist, starving student. So, I I understand that completely. You know, that I'm not spoiled, at least I hope I'm not. Um, But at the same time, I'm kind of like questioning whether, are my stresses and anxieties valid? Trying to go through this emotional roller coaster ride and trying to figure out what exactly it means to do what I do every day of my life and figure out the ups and downs and the goods and bads of what I do. And whether that means academia or just having fun playing Pokemon or just being with my friends and then having a mental breakdown later on the day. I mean, I almost had a mental breakdown today just from the stresses of moving. Everyone's just so on edge, and information kept getting skewed up. Skewed up? Skewed. Misinterpreted. Um, but like, they'll say, hey, this needs to stay at the house and this needs to go. Suddenly we've got information backwards. Since I'm here by myself, they took the dressers to the house. And I was like, but I need my clothes. And then they were like, well, we tried to call you and didn't answer. And I'm like, because I had my headphones on. If you need my attention, please tap me on the shoulder. I'm not trying to ignore you. Well, I kind of am. But I'm trying to find a way to de-stress since I have all of my stuff pretty much done and ready to go. I'm just waiting for the internet to be transferred over to the new place. But that is not the main concern of what I want to talk about today. My main concern is of kind of just in general of what I'm doing. For those who don't know, I am a literature major. And I'm kind of taking on the literature major not for academic purposes. In fact, a lot of people would debate that whether I should be a literature major because when I write an essay, my first assignment usually on an essay is a C. And it usually stays there too. Like it very rarely goes beyond a B. And maybe that's not a bad thing, at least I'm passing and I'm doing average, but there are times where like I it's kind of hard to explain where for some reason I can't get apparently the right idea what's expected of my teachers from me, and I question my intelligence because of it. So like for example, one of the assignments that we had was we had to read with the grain and read against the grain. And we are going over certain critiques, the way you can critique literature, but you could probably apply them to really almost any kind of art, whether it be music, painting, sculpture, or even video games. You can take these theory approaches to really almost anything, but for the sake of the class, it was focused on literature. And one of them was feminism. Now, for those who don't know, I don't label myself a feminist. That's a whole different ball game for a different day. Not for this video. The point of the assignment of reading against the grain was, in a basic terminology, was to critique it. And I got like a 6.5 out of 10. And it was so bittersweet because I gave the essay, the graded version, to a friend. And I said, could you read over it and read the comments and tell me what you think? And it was really odd because they were like, well, on the one hand, I understand why he would say these certain things. But on the other hand, there's like this hidden agenda involved. Like, if you don't understand feminism or if you, how did he say it? Or something along the lines of like, understanding and learning feminism is important in this day and age to be educated, and you just instantly cringe a little. And don't mind me, I'm egalitarian, and I'm all for, we're in the same goal anyway, so it doesn't matter what I'm called. We're here for the same goals, or at least I would hope we are. If not, well, somebody needs to reevaluate. But I didn't know how to take that, and it was such an annoyance because I felt offended, and it was so weird because, hi, I'm a female, and I don't 100% believe of that little pay wage gap, that little fun wage gap that everyone likes to talk about. I threw out the CONSAT report, which was back in like 2000, I think it was like 9 or something like that. they did a full evaluation of the pay wages, which I'm not going to get too far into as well, but basically that if you include benefits and stuff like that, it actually evens out pretty well. But if you know anything about revising papers, you would know that no matter how hard you try, you will always at least stay neutral. So in other words, you get a paper back. Let's say you failed. You revise, you shittily, is that a word? You do a very shitty attempt to revise, guess what? You're getting a D now. Like, you're guaranteed to not get worse than what you had. So when I revised the little 2-page paper, which by the by was supposed to be a 1-pager, like how do you criticize feminist critique in 1 page, double spaced, 12-point Times New Roman font, 1-inch margins? It's just not really possible. If I could give my 2 cents on it, like there's no way you can do that. And when I revised it, I got a C, 7.5 out of 10. Instead of the 6.5 out of 10. Still wasn't satisfied. That apparently it doesn't matter, I can believe what I want, but I am judged on my merit to prove an argument. Pretty sure the CONSAT report was a pretty damn good argument. Especially when I was just giving an opinion. It was a 1-page, 10-point paper. I didn't know I would have to dig into and the worst part about it was I wasn't supposed to give a source. So how am I supposed to critique something without a source? Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. So that means it's a matter of opinion. So I'm graded on my opinion at that point, and maybe I'm completely wrong and someone can explain it better. But I doubted myself a lot. And I even told my friends, even though I got a C, I still doubt myself. And they're like, why? You got better grade. I'm like, let's admit it. When you revise a paper, you always do better than what you did previously. And this may be true. It's actually very true. Because I still to this day feel a little cringeworthy involving that piece. Because it felt like, in that situation at least, the whole class in general, I'm failing. And I'm not even 100% sure why. I've read the material, but for some reason, it's just not sinking into my brain. Thus, my personal opinion of my intelligence has been judged highly of myself, and that I am not intelligent. It's a thing. I am not intelligent, to my own personal view. But in that specific moment, in that specific class, I felt extremely, extremely judged. And not to say that he was a bad teacher. In fact, he was one of my personal favorites. It was like, oh, this teacher's going to be teaching this class? Awesome. Like, I really looked forward to it. But as soon as that one thing came up, it almost ruined me for it. I almost ruined myself in a way. And that's a really weird thing to be bitching about. Because I shouldn't be focusing so hard on one assignment. And I'm not here to be throwing around feminazi quotes and down with the feminists, that's not the point of this video. I literally immediately started hating myself because I felt I wasn't good enough because everyone else, there's a couple of students who are, God, they're at least 5 years younger than me. They're juniors because, they're probably not 5 years younger than me. They're probably like 3 or 4 years younger than me because they started school right after high school. So they have the age to go along with that. But they were getting A's on essays in that class. And I'm walking away with C's. Like, okay, I'm passing, but what is it that they're doing that's so good that they're receiving an A? And I read the material. I legitimately read it through. In fact, I've gonna probably have to sit down and read through all of it again and again and again. And I don't even know if it's gonna stick. And this gets really awkward because then that means that the more I study, not that the more I study, the less I learn. It's more of my progression of gaining intelligence is so slight, it's really hard to know when I'm finally gonna get it. Because when I did that second draft, for that little one-page paper that ended up being, by the by, ended up being like 3 pages long plus the CONSAD report as a source, even though he didn't want one. And to be fair, maybe I'm not a good writer, and maybe this is the wrong path. But I don't really feel I have much of a choice. I really don't. How do I explain this? Because it's such a weird thing to feel when you want to be good at something in the academic world, and then suddenly you're not as good as you had hoped you were. And then the next thing you know, you get scared. Like, legitimately fearful of your life. Because in this day and age, you need a college education to get pretty decent jobs nowadays. Some people are really freaking lucky. Like, they're really lucky. They don't understand how lucky they are if they have a damn good job without a degree. But nowadays, you need a degree. If I don't get a degree, then it feels like my worth has been reduced to nothing but, would you like fries with that? And I don't want to, and I don't want to work retail for the rest of my life. But if I don't understand what teachers are telling me, then I'm not worth that. I'm not worth the job or the degree. I'm trying to think of the word for it. I am not worthy. I'm not able. I don't know. I feel like there's a word I'm looking for and I can't get it to come out of my lips. But it's really odd when you're sitting in class listening to everything and you're like, oh, okay, I get it. I have no questions. You take the test and fail it. And then they're like, why didn't you ask questions? And you're like, because I didn't have any. I thought I understood it. That's the weird thing about this whole situation, is that every time I keep thinking I've got it, deep down inside I feel like I don't. And I don't feel like I ever will. And that hurts, because now that means that I'm not worthy of a good life with a decent paycheck to pay my own bills. And that hurts, because I guess I'm just not worthy of those goals that I want to set for myself. I'm going into the literature field for more artistic reasons rather than academic. So I'm not going in there to be like, I'm gonna write 6 essays on feminism and require like 3 or 4 sources and prove that feminism is bullshit. Like, that's not my job here. My job is I want to evaluate characters. I want to create stories, understand how stories evolved, and cultural contexts. I don't want to be a researcher. I want to create stories. And having a literature degree can help that. The problem is, all of the classes I've ended up taking have not really been creative writing, or at least a couple have. Intro to creative writing and then creative writing. So I've taken a couple classes that are involved in those categories. They're a lot like art class, though. It's really hard to fail. It's really hard to fail in art class. Like, don't show up. That's how you fail in art class. But I don't know. I just feel like as if I don't get a degree, that I'm not worthwhile or worth the job, or it's not worth it. And that's a weird thing, I have anxiety, I have depression, and on the medical side, it may very well be that I have medical diagnosis of both of them. Medication's a thing. But I have to question to myself, is that really me, or is that just something beyond my control trying to tell me no? Even though I try to tell myself that it's worth it in the end, there's always something underneath your chest trying to tell you, no, don't believe that. You have no worth. And that's a really hard thing to fight. It's a really hard thing to kind of keep under your breath and just go, no, I've got to keep believing I can do this. After everything had gone down the way it did in that class, and how I ended up failing actually an exam in a completely different test, a completely different class, and I bombed it. Like, it was a 33 out of 100. It was bad. Like, what the hell are you going to do with your life, bad? And for the first time since I was a child, I had a teacher that actually came up to me and asked me what happened, if there's anything she could do. Now, on the one hand, I completely understand when teachers say, it's your responsibility to come to us if you are struggling. And I completely get that. It's trying to tell the student that it's their responsibility for how their grades come out. But on the other hand, I completely feel like as if somebody does that, and this isn't always going to be guaranteed, and you're welcome to disagree, but it feels like they're also saying it's not my responsibility as a teacher, and I don't care about your grade. I'm just going to let you fail if I see you're failing. Or something of that nature, where it feels like they're disconnecting themselves from what a noble teacher would do. And for the first time since I was a child, I had a professor walk up to me and go, and because she noticed that I was just not okay. I was very quiet. I was very uneventful. My eyes looked tired. I just didn't do anything. I'm usually pretty talkative in that class in general, before class and during. But I just wasn't talking because I was just so depressed. And I was just so scared and upset with myself because I thought I was being creative, to be fair. It was a question involving something about Beowulf, and what of the monsters in Marie de France's lays would Beowulf kill? Would he go after? And I decided to play on the idea of what a monster was, so I decided to talk about the king and his daughter who was in a tower, and the prince who could turn into, I think it was an eagle or a raven or some kind of bird. I can't think of the lay off the top of my head, but I wanted to play with the idea of what was considered a monster. You know, depending on who asked first, would, whether it be the prince or the king, the other would be the opposing monster. That it was completely perceptual. But that wasn't good enough, and I failed the exam. I think that's what happened. The problem was, I felt that apparently being creative wasn't part of the assignment. That wasn't apparently being creative. Apparently, it didn't answer the question, unless I'm horribly mistaken. In fact, now that I think about it, I have no idea where my copy of the exam is. I can't remember if I threw it away or what. But for the first time, she pulled me aside and said, Megan, can I talk to you for a minute? And immediately she took me outside of the class, before class, and asked me, you seem really quiet, and I know it's probably because of your previous exam. And I know for a fact I was the only one that failed. And even as I'm telling this, for some reason I'm choking up a little bit. Like I can feel tears coming up, and I'm like, why? Why am I so upset about this? But it just makes me upset. Like, my chest hurts, and I feel like I'm going to start crying. And maybe I will. But I felt comforted. It felt like she cared. Whereas with the previous teacher I talked about with the redraft that I had to do, it felt more like it was a demand and that he didn't care, which is not true. He's very thorough with his reviews. It's not that he doesn't care. But for the first time, I had a teacher reach out to me. And it still crushed me really fucking hard. Even though, it's not like she even did anything wrong. And once I talked to her, I felt it was my fault, not hers. Whereas I feel like it's a mixed bag with the previous teacher that I was talking about. And they're both at different campuses, though they're part of the same network. They're part of two different campuses. So it's not like they could talk to each other or anything, but it's that weird confliction with yourself. Like, on the one hand, you understand completely what the teacher is telling you and that what you did wrong. But on the other hand, you're kind of just like that you suddenly shut yourself down, or that you suddenly, a part of you even tries and attempts to blame it on the teacher. It doesn't work. Like, I tried to blame it on the teacher. I really did. Like, when I did that redraft, I tried so hard to blame it on him, and I couldn't. I couldn't blame him. And I don't know why to this day why. I mean, this was just earlier in the semester. But I could blame myself till the cows come home, even after the redraft. And I'm not asking for handouts by any means. I just want to understand why, and I want to understand how. Because on the one hand, I understand and correlate the idea that I am not a perfect human being. But on the other hand, when I try to give myself some credit, even if it's just a small amount of credit, that maybe I do know what I'm talking about, and that I'm not this dumbass who's going to school out of desperate attempt to survive, even if I give myself that small credit, it still feels like I'm lying to myself, which can't be true, because my friends have told me otherwise, and I expect their full opinion of me. I've told them many a times over, if there is something that you don't like about me, or I'm treating you unfair, or I'm just coming off as a complete, utter dickwad fucking asshole, I don't know, let's insert slut because reasons. Not even for sexual purpose, but just downright trash. I told them, you fucking tell me, because I don't want to be. When you can get that raw with someone about that, you expect the best answer. So I know when they tell me, no, you're good at what you do, I want to take it to heart, but the grades aren't showing that. So there's confliction. Again, there's so many conflictions that I don't know what to do. And it's such a weird thing to talk about, because half the people don't even know what I'm talking about. Like, they just can't wrap their heads around it. And one of the worst things about it is that I've had one person, one of my roommates, actually tell me that if I qualified for SSI, which is a possibility, I may qualify. I'm not sure if I do or not for SSI. I mean, if I don't, oh well. If I do, okay, I'll take it. I'll take what I can get. And that's not the fault of mine. That's the fault of the system. Go blame the system if you have a problem with that. By all means, please go talk about the system and get the system fixed. But the possibility of me even thinking about getting SSI made my roommate think, then what's the point in going to school? You could just live off of SSI. Which pissed me off to no end. And that's such a weird thing too now, because I just told myself, no, this isn't worth it. Why are you doing this for yourself? Just live on SSI. You don't need to go to school anymore. What the bloody fuck? Like, it's another confliction. Like, my life is full of fucking conflictions. And I don't even know why anymore. It's... I'm just like, why? It feels like there's nothing but conflictions. And it's really hard because when you have anxiety, you question which one's real and which one's true. And when you're depressed, you believe the worst. And that's so weird to have at the same time. You're conflicted, but you kind of semi-believe the negative side. It's so dumb. I don't know what to do. Like, and with moving, it feels like I'm overbearing myself. Not overbearing, that's not the right word. I'm overworking, maybe? Or I'm overstressed. I'm unsure of who to blame. Like, I want to blame my fellow roommates for getting really nasty earlier today at each other and everyone, and I'm just like, okay, we need to take chill pills and take a break. But no, there was no fucking breaks. And, to me, that feels like, wait a minute, why not? That feels kind of irresponsible to me if you don't take a break. But it feels like, even though I know better to think it, I sometimes instinctively say it's my fault. I will instinctively say I'm to blame. I am just a horrible student, and my brain just can't handle it. so I'm bad. I'm horrible, or I'm not worth it. And even thinking about what I'm about ready to say, there's a pressure trying to push it back down and saying, no, 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 that's not true. But the next thing I want to try to tell myself is, no, don't believe that for a second. Don't ever think that you are lesser than or not worthy of such things, you know? Don't ever say that it's your fault when you've logically broke it down. There are things that are my fault. I'm not going to say that it's never my fault. But when you can logically break it down and say, okay, I could have done this, I didn't do that, I knew I could have done this, but refused to do it anyways, or any kind of logical procedure you use to kind of come to the conclusion that it was your fault, you know, you do that. But, you know, if you've come to the conclusion where it's not your fault, even after the logical procedures to, you know, narrow it down, you suddenly kind of feel like, when you suddenly feel like, no, that's not true, even though you've just told yourself, but logically it doesn't make sense. It's not my fault, but you still feel like it's your fault. That's depression for you. Even though logically you've broke it down, you still blame yourself. And that's a weird thing. It really is. It makes no sense. Depression, in a way, makes no sense. It really doesn't. Um, but my little after shower thought. Ow. I just ow. Fuck me. I'm walking in my living room right now, kind of just pacing as I'm talking. And I just slammed my foot into my dresser drawer because I have my drawers here at the house but left the dresser at the other place. And just jammed my foot right into the thick wooden, and I'm talking real wood, not that fake cardboard shit. I'm talking real wood dresser drawer. Just bam, my toes right into the corner of it. Ow! You know the sound. Oh, fuck. That hurt. I need to go to bed. It's 1 in the morning. Ugh. Anyway, I'm gonna finish this. I hope I didn't vent too hard or anything, but it's just me trying to figure out what's up next in life. So if I can get real, that I just got real with people. Whoever listens to this, I thank you for listening. You know, you very well didn't have to, but you did. This is Megan reporting off for a podcast I haven't done in forever, and hopefully I will do more. But school's in the way, so we'll see what happens. Anyways, I will talk to you all later. Thanks a lot, and peace out. And hey, thanks for watching, guys. Or listening. You know, whichever way you go. You get the idea.